11,000
I
what?
didn't bring my park packet. That was a nice looking workout.
Go ahead. I brought mine from home.
Yeah, I forgot to bring mine. I said, I'd be sure to take that, and of course I walked off and left it.
I
sitting
walked by
right there.
mine half a dozen times today, and I finally said, I remember.
Yeah,
So then I just put it out in the truck. So I knew I would have
good
it.
idea. I should have done that myself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Thursday, February 4th, regularly scheduled meeting of the council. For those of you at home watching us on YouTube, we welcome you. Interest, and we will get right started right away with our business. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask you to stand and join me in a moment of silent meditation. I invite you to pray in any manner that you're comfortable. We will follow that with Thank you. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you. We have Councilwoman Carl with us. Can you hear us well, Linda? Yes. Thank you. Good to have you with us tonight, and belated happy birthday. Councilwoman Carter had a birthday on January 30th.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Katie, too.
Yeah. Katie, when was
January the 5th.
January 5th?
Yep, I was
Oh, okay.
85.
Past my re. I don't believe we have any special guests tonight, other than the ones that are on the agenda. So this is the appointed time for public comment period. Is there anyone in the house tonight that would like to address the Asheboro City Council on any matters of city business?
Mayor, seeing nothing back there, I'm just going to read this into the record. Doug Shiflett, well, I think all of you know the Claude Shiflett family, Shiflett Stables. He sent me a letter tonight. Mayor and I are traveling on business. And I'll just read this into it, then the mayor and I will follow up with a few comments, because I know I cannot there type of calls. I've already planned a trip. I send you this message strictly out of my love, care, and concern over the reputation of our beloved city, Asheboro. Several months and I had conversations about landscaping, the degradation, as well as maintaining of the grass on our medians. He's talking about the interstate. Mayor Smith enlightened me to some of the things I was not aware of between these issues. That would be DOT financial crisis. They cut the mowing from 4 times a year to 2. They have no more crews to pick up the litter. We cannot give customers, we cannot get community service folks to, they don't have that program anymore either. It got better at the end of the summer season, but not to the level it normally has been or what I think it should be. Now my concern shifts to litter. He writes, I'm appalled at the amount of litter on I-73-74, we all are, and most of the exits coming on and off it. As a citizen since 1973 and a wife who's a lifelong citizen, we're embarrassed by our travelers, tourists, and visitors coming to and through Asheboro. We are blessed to be at so many crossroads of our great state, but we've got to represent it better. There are so many organizations, Asheboro, as well as prisoners, citizens, et cetera, that could alleviate the problem. What has happened to our Adopt a Highway program? We don't have that answer right now. I encourage all you driving around Asheboro to pay attention and focus on the side of the road at this ever-increasing problem and an eyesore. Asheboro, we can do better. Let's set a bar for our state. Let's make us proud to have our citizens and visitors bragging about how clean and beautiful our city is. So that's the background. This is, when we get to Mr. Leonard's presentations, we're going to address some of this. later on the placemaking and beautification. So I'll come back up at that point. Thank you, Mayor. And that's again from Doug Shiplet, I think.
Thanks, John. There's no one else that wants to address the council tonight, so we'll move on. The first business, Franklin of the Randolph County Corporation, he's going to brief us on the county's placement in the statewide tier system.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. Mr. Ogburn invited me to come and give a little bit of an update on the county's tier system that's used throughout the state of North Carolina. I wanted to give a little bit of background, not assuming that everybody is familiar with what this is all about. So general statutes of North Carolina require the North Carolina Department of Commerce annually to rank the state's 100 counties based upon their economic well-being. The states that are ranked from 1 to 40 are considered the most distressed, and then they're designated as Tier 1 counties. Tier 2 counties are ranked from 41 to 80, and then the Tier 3 least distressed are ranked from 81 to 1. That's Tier 3. Commerce then uses this data from four different categories to complete the. These are the 4 categories that they use annually: average unemployment rate, median household income, percentage growth, and adjusted property tax per capita. So the tier system that is incorporated into various state programs to encourage economic activity in the less of the state. The situation here, county, certainly including the city of Asheboro, after multiple years, for as long as I can remember being involved in local government and now in the economic development for the last 7 years, local government for years prior to that, we've been a Tier 2 county. For 2021, we've been designated as a Tier 1 county, putting us amongst the most economically distressed counties in the state. And I want to quote from the state documentation that says why this shift occurred for Randolph County for this year. Is, quote, "This shift was largely driven by a change in the county's unemployment rate rank, which moved from number 66 last year to number 44 this year," end quote. So to me, it's a little fuzzy. As we all know, the unemployment rate for all counties across the state, and in fact all states across the country, has been up and down, fluctuating significantly. And so as a result of this, we find ourselves in Tier 1 this year. I think once things stabilize, and exactly how long that will take, no one knows, but hopefully within the next year or two, I think it's quite likely that we'll find ourselves back into that Tier 2 category, which is where we traditionally have found ourselves. Just for background again, here's where Randolph County ranked in all 4 of these categories, which determined this year's tier designation. The adjusted property tax base per capita, and this is figured on fiscal year 2021, we ranked number 26. So that's fairly low, not good. Population growth, we ranked number 40, so we're right on the bubble there between Tier 1 and Tier 2. Median household income, we ranked, and this is based on 2018 numbers, we ranked 58, so in pretty good shape, in the middle of the pack for the state. An unemployment rate, as we've already mentioned, and this is from October 19 to September 2020, it's the average, that 12-month average, we ranked 44. So we were 66 in this category last year. We dropped to 44 for the rankings for 2021. So I also wanted to put this map up that you see ahead of you just so that you get a context of where we are in relation to the communities that are around us. And you can see the lightest color there are all of the Tier 1 counties, or the more economically distressed counties, and we fall into that this year. Those counties surrounding us are either Tier 2 or Tier 3 counties, all of those that touch us. And most of those in our region are Tier 2 counties. I also just want to note that there's been a lot of controversy since the state initially instituted this particular program about how equitable it is. And I'll point out two things. First of all, in Chatham County, and secondly, in Moore County. And you'll note that both of those are ranked as Tier 3 counties, least economically distressed. But if you know anything about those communities, you know that in Chatham County, for example, the eastern side of the county, Pittsboro, all of that that's kind of bleeding out from the Chapel Hill, Durham area, that's certainly a better off section of the county economically. If you get into the western side where Siler City is and some of the more rural areas, certainly that would have the characteristics more of a Tier 1 community. I think Moore County is the and that really is driving that Tier 3 status. So just make note of that there is some controversy about how this is, and every year or two somebody proposes legislation that we should look at this more holistically at the state, but that hasn't happened so far. So what does this mean for us today in Randolph County? Like you, we probably feel the same, that we don't like to find ourselves categorized as among the most distressed communities in the state. However, there is the potential for some benefit to our community as a result of this. So for example, when applying for state economic development grants, lower tier communities tend to receive higher priority because the state has this vested interest in trying to help improve the status of the more economically distressed communities. In fact, that's the whole purpose for them doing this exercise on an annual basis. So as an example, some of the state grant programs, I'll start with JDIG. That's the Jobs Development. This is kind of the state's signature program for large-scale investment in a community. A company that's locating in a Tier 3 community receives 75% of an announced grant award for JDIG, with the remaining 25% being transferred to the utility account, which helps to fund infrastructure projects in Tier 1 and Tier 2 communities. So for Tier 3, 75% of that announcement goes to the company, 25% goes into the utility account. In a Tier 2 community, which is what we traditionally have been, in that particular program, it is 90% of the grant goes to the company, 10% goes into the utility account. For a Tier 1 community, for a large-scale investment by a company, 100% of that announced grant goes directly to the company, and there is no allocation out of that to the utility account. So a larger company landing in a Tier 1 community actually has some financial benefit by doing so. Another grant, for example, the One North Carolina grant, which is the economic development projects, typically it's on a per job basis, a couple $1,000 per job from the state. There's from that, however. So in a Tier 3 community, it's a dollar for dollar match. State puts in $1, the community puts in $1 for the program, for the project. In a Tier 2 community, the state puts in $2 and the community puts in $1. For a Tier 1 community, the state puts in $3 and the community puts in just $1. So it's it goes from a 100% match to 50% match to a 25% match for a Tier 1 community. Other state programs, such as the Building Reuse Grant, you're familiar with that. We've used it successfully across the county and certainly in Asheboro. Those give priority to Tier 1 and Tier 2 communities. But again, there is an emphasis on, if everything's equal and the funding is limited and it's a Tier 1 community versus a Tier 2 community, typically the Tier 1 community is going to get the nod for that program. So I think the bottom line here is that the state established this tier system to identify and help communities that are in need of economic support. And that Tier 1 designation then can actually prove beneficial in attracting new industry to Randolph County. I think the other thing is, even if there's a program that's not necessarily focused on specifically benefiting a Tier 1 community, if the state's goal is to lift up those Tier 1 communities, we certainly shouldn't be shy while we have this designation for asking the state for help, even if it's not specifically designated as being beneficial for that program. So if there's a project going on, I think we should be bold in going to the state for assistance and making reference to, these are your numbers that you've compiled based upon what's happening in our community. And according to your designation, we're a distressed community. That's in for this program to see us improve, help us improve. So I think that's where we are today. Again, I don't like to be there, but I think there can be some benefit for our community. While we're here, let's take advantage as we can of being in this Tier 1 status. So that's kind of high level. I've got some additional documentation from the state that provides information about where all of the counties across the state land and all of their specific rankings in those categories. I'd be happy to share that with Mr. Ogburn if that would be helpful, if you all would like to see that as well. But if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Kevin, I couldn't agree with you more about the Chatham and more. There's clearly 2 Chathams and 2 more.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just, especially in Chatham, it's just physical as well.
It is.
Looking at the map, we've got some strange bedfellows in this. 4 counties jump out at me, and it's three in addition to Randolph that I'm scratching my head about as well, and that's Wilson, Cumberland, and Rowan. Cumberland makes no sense. Wilson makes very little. I see no evidence in Rowan. I spend more time there.
Right.
There are clearly some anomaly outliers driving this collective statistic.
Yes. This year, typically there are a handful of counties that are switching tier designation. They're kind of on that bubble every year, whether it's between Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 2, Tier 3. And so there's a little bit of shift every year. This year there was almost, I don't have to go back and count, there were probably 15 counties that had their designation shift. So I think really a lot of this for this year is a function of just a strange economy over the past year, and I think we're going to see some of this level out. But ultimately, I don't have the answer for this, but ultimately there's clearly some issues. I will say that for some of these grants, if they're in a Tier 3 community, but their census tract is designated as distressed, then they still may be eligible for some of these programs. But when we're talking about the grant matches and that kind of thing, that really boils down to where does the county fall in this tier designation level.
I believe I've read about things that, for instance, Anson, Richmond, and Scotland were like the only places that qualified for potential. I had
Sure.
plan. If we're ranked the same as them, certainly we could move right up to the front of the. If this were NASCAR, we could have the best truck team there is.
That's right. I like your analogy. I will say one other thing with respect to specifically some of the CDBG grants that are administered on the state level that require matches. Some of them have another layer of help for those that really are at the bottom of the tier level. So those that are in the lowest 25 ranking, the grant match is either very minimal or it goes away completely. And certainly we're not at that level. Let's take advantage as we can while we're here. Yeah.
Any other questions of Kevin? Kevin, thank you so much for staying on top of this and sharing this information with us. It doesn't, looking at the map, it doesn't seem completely equitable. And there are some real discrepancies, but maybe we can make some hay with this.
It's the hand we've been dealt. Let's play it the best we can.
Is there a place where you can place a 3-for-1 ad? He works at Joseph A. Banks. Nobody has any idea what the pay fee is.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Christopher, we're working with them on we do have, what's the track north end of town called now? federal designation?
The opportunities.
Opportunity zone. So we do, what Mr. Moffett mentioned, there's federal economic development opportunities layered on top of the state map. So there is a spot in Asheboro that's an economic opportunity zone. It's the northern end and goes up into Randleman. When Kevin notified me about this, I did ask him to come tonight. I did direct Michael Roney and Water and Sewer Director, Water Resources Director, to notify Freeze and Nichols. They're doing some grant work on us to use this for any grant monies that are available. Also for our Sportsplex project, Zoo City Sports Block project, you may have remembered before COVID hit, we had a meeting in the new rec center. It's, you know, using just a little 25 square feet of, and about the Sportsplex and the need for soccer fields and multi-purpose fields. That grant application will go in this spring. That was what's on the street nomenclature, Part F, but it's North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, PARTF. And we plan to apply for the federal program also, which is Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the lingo LWCF. So the application will reflect this new rating when we send those in. Also today, Mayor Smith, on top of the COVID activities and the possibility for COVID legislation, COVID-related economic legislation, and public health legislation in Washington, federal legislation, sent a letter to Senator Burr, Senator Tillis, and Representative Budd, and the need for economic stimulus here in Asheboro, as well as additional monies for vaccinations. I'll get to more on that just further down the agenda. And we did cite this as economic assistance needed in Asheboro and Randolph County as well. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you, John. Thank you, Kevin. Next item I'll call on Chief Building Inspector Randy Purvis. He has his annual building inspections report. Welcome, Mr. Purvis.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'd like to present the City of Asheboro 2020 Building Inspections Department Annual Report. And we still maintain a staff of myself, Chief Building Inspector, Jimmy Cagle, part-time inspector, and Tammy Williams, the Deputy City Clerk. For the year of 2020, the outbreak of the novel coronavirus made for a challenging year for everyone. Changes were implemented to ensure the health and safety of employees as well as customers while continuing to provide excellent customer service. The number of new residential building permits issued for January 2020 through December 2020 was 156, of which 85 were new construction and 71 was residential remodel. Wade Journey Homes was responsible for permitting 62 of the permits for residential single-family structures. For the year of 2020, there were a total of 57 commercial building permits issued, of which 8 were new construction and 49 were remodel and upfits. The total valuation for both new commercial and remodel upfit permitting was $18,008,595. The total value for residential permitting totaled $10,153,220. The total revenue generated for building permits, both residential and commercial, was $93,285.78. The new commercial projects included, but are not limited to, Bojangles, Aspen Dental, and we built 2 Dollar General stores. There were a number of commercial renovations that took place, such as Custom Extrusion, Hunt Electric, Tractor Supply, and Talbert Building Supply. Overall, the City of Asheboro Building Inspections Department performed well and exceeded the previous year in some categories. We will continue to work closely with all departments within the city to make Asheboro the place everyone wants to be. For the Total of the building permits was $93,285.78. The electrical permits totaled $17,768, and plumbing permits totaled $10,785, and the mechanical or heating and air permits totaled $20,755. Building permit valuations for new construction, residential and commercial, was $7,687,420. For additions and alterations, residential and commercial, was $1,275,400. The total for residential and commercial was $8,962,820. The number and value of building permits, commercial and residential, manufactured homes, flat fee excluded. And this gives you the total for the last 5 years of commercial and residential. The number of permits and dwelling structures consisted of 83 single-family permits, 2 townhomes, which was a total of 85. And the number of dwelling units in the previous 10 years are listed, and these include single-family, townhomes, duplexes, and multifamilies. Permits issued by trade, commercial and residential. On the building permits, we had 242, electrical 310, plumbing permits was 151, HVAC 248, and 21 manufactured mobile homes. The permit valuations, commercial and residential, for the previous 10 years are listed, with 2020 new construction was $14,410,020. The additions and alterations was $13,751,795, and the total of all was $28,161,815 for the year of 2020. And if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them for you.
Randy, I'd just like to share with you my opinion and feedback that I get on the value of the service that your department brings to the city. It's not all dollars and cents revenue. It's convenience, it's service, it's follow through, it's easy to work with, and I think it's a very valuable service that the city provides and very necessary for us to continue.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I will echo that. I get positive comments and compliments often from people that deal with you and your department. You and Tammy do a great job, and people say you're great to deal with.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Purvis?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make this public. Tonight is Randy's last annual report to the council.
Haven't we heard that before?
I was gonna say.
Randy will be retiring in May,
Oh, no.
June 1st.
June 1st, so we may make him come.
Congratulations.
He doesn't know yet that once you're in the city manager's phone, you don't actually retire. You're on standby ready reserve. So you may see that we're advertising now, but we're gonna continue to offer the service in our community development department with our fire inspections, and zoning compliance, right at one shop. ABC permits, just come to one place. You don't have to run to the county and back. We still find it that we're on, so. And we're proud of all that Randy has done.
Yeah.
And he's been a real asset to the city. We'll say more about that later.
Proud for you and sad for me.
In that event, I might have a few questions.
Any questions? Hold them till June the 1st.
Thank you,
Thank
Randy.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy.
At this point, I'd like to call on our code enforcement officer, Chuck Garner. He's got an annual report on his office activities, code enforcement. Welcome, Mr. Garner.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Ogburn. I with Randy coming before me and talking about all the millions of dollars and this and that, he's a tough act to follow. So when we get a new building inspector, I think code enforcement should come in. He's a tough act to follow. I really appreciate y'all letting me come and talk. I'm really proud of what code enforcement is able to accomplish. We move slow, but we're always moving forward. And I think overall, I'm just really proud of what we're able to accomplish. This year has been crazy for everybody. A year ago when I stood up here, there was no COVID, and I make my living more with conversation than with putting a letter in the mail to somebody. And I feel like I get more accomplished that way. And I build a relationship with the community in that manner. So in the beginning of it, scratching my head, what do I do? How do I do my job effectively? Well, I decided to just start getting COVID tests and doing my job. And it's worked out. The numbers are off a little this year in terms of notices of violation issued, and I'm gonna blame that on COVID. 307, you see there, it's a little less than last year, but it's not really reflective of the total number of cases, because a lot of cases, because of conversation and education, never rise to the level of having to do something formally like that. The unlawful tent cities cleared. I really should have said relocated and moved to a better location that serves, I don't know how to say other than that community right now, which is growing, I'm afraid. 9 dilapidated structures were removed, and that's always a good thing. It's always good for the community as a whole to remove something that is bringing property values down. You know, it's not safe. The breakdown on the NOVs, 75% general nuisance, 10% junked vehicles, and 15% zoning violations. That's not all inclusive, because if you ask me what I'm going to do in the morning, I can't tell you yet. I have to wait and see what the voicemail message, well, no, I do know. I do know what I'm going to do first thing, but it changes from day to day. The job's always interesting. It's not predictable. So that's not an all-inclusive list. This is one of the tent cities that was moved, and you can see for obvious reasons why it needed to be moved. This is a better looking operation, but nonetheless, it couldn't be in that spot. This is one of the dilapidated structures that was took down, and now that is here's another picture of the same thing. Now it's a grassy lot, and it's aesthetically pleasing and not hurting community at all. Another one, this is one I have a before and after. And you can see, obviously, it needed to go. There's some safety problems there, and that's what it looks like now. So you can see the improvement and the necessity in getting rid of some of these structures. And these are just typical nuisance violations that are encountered. Most of the time, people want to do the right thing and need to be educated or just reminded. And a lot of times, me showing up is enough to realize that somebody else is looking at their problems. And yeah, that's, I see.
Is that out in the street?
That's out in the street. That's outside of the normal.
That didn't happen in the afternoon.
Is that
Actually,
after they
it did.
After they cleaned out the house?
They cleaned out the house and they had all the bagged stuff out at the street, and then they left. It's a rental house, and as soon as they left, people converged on all the bagged stuff and went shopping. And that's the result.
Wow.
And that was not cleaned up by the city. I contacted the property owner, and he came back from out of town with a dump truck, and he cleaned all of that up. So that wasn't a burden put on our public services department. And that is exactly what it looks like.
Two pigs.
2 pigs, and that's a front porch.
In a pod.
Yeah. That's why I say it's always interesting. And I'm going to close with this picture and just a 30-second explanation. The most rewarding thing that I do is in situations like this is a rental property. It's a low-income rental property where I get to be an advocate for the tenant in a situation like that. Now, I have recognized during COVID that a lot of landlords are not being paid right now. So it changes the dynamic. And I really wanted to say metric right there because she said, Mandy says that all the time on the governor's things, but I back away from it. But it changes the dynamic. The landlords are struggling financially too right now. And so it's kind of, we're all in it together right now to work together. So I work towards more of a meet in the middle approach until we come out of the pandemic. So, and that's it. That's the last one. So, any questions?
Questions? Ms. Carter, do you have any questions for Chuck?
I do not.
Ms. Carter, I forgot.
Thank him for the job that he does. He does an excellent job.
I forgot you were there. I'm sorry. And I do appreciate you letting me know about the thing earlier. And I always appreciate you calling me or texting me and making me aware of something that I may not have seen. So thank you.
And thank you because you just jump right on it every time.
Chuck works very closely with Ms. Carter's Community Development Committee, which she chairs, and that's the source of a lot of his marching orders coming from that committee and contact that they have with citizens in the community.
Right.
And I will compliment Chuck also in that every time I have a complaint that I end up forwarding to Chuck, he jumps right on it, gets it done, and never fails to call me back and let me know the disposition and what he's actually been able to accomplish in that particular case. And Chuck, I do appreciate
Thank you.
that. You
I appreciate
you
your
work
kind
well for the city and do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck, is there currently any activity maybe, on a two-story wood structure at the intersection of Cox Street and Main Street there, commonly known as Hayes's Grocery Store? It's catty corner across from the Asheboro Rescue Squad.
Well, the two-story one's being renovated right now.
Really?
Yeah,
kidding.
I know.
That thing's leaning.
Now, the one story, the yellow house that's about to fall
Yeah.
is actually, we're gonna remove it. And, the holdup right now is it's a legal thing. It was a rent to own, there is a mortgage, the, family that lived there left, and so they haven't been able to sign any paperwork, release it back, or surrender it, I think is the right term. And we're waiting. There's a time period that has to be run out before anything can go forward, but it's as good as gone now.
So you're gonna attempt to renovate the two-story?
Yeah, that was,
Hayes Grocery, they're gonna renovate.
yeah,
It appears to me that it's leaning.
That was a wood floor building. I mean, it was, anyway.
Barry Betts bought it, and I've talked to him about it, and he's going to renovate it, and it's started now, renovating. So,
More power to them.
Yeah.
I wish them well. That's
Yeah.
a daunting task.
yeah, it is, and there's a lot
No
of
wonder
work.
Randy
A lot
Clark.
of history in that little building. I used to shop there as a kid,
Yeah,
out of the little nickel
Well-
Coke bottles.
Yeah.
prior to him buying it, we had actually had a hearing on it and ordered it. It was rental property. The previous owner was renting it out for residential use, and we closed it because of safety concerns. You know, so
Well, once again, you do a great job. Thank you.
thank you.
You're not retiring, are you?
I wish. No. No.
I hope not.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, council, you have in front of you your consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual discussion and consideration? Hearing no items mentioned, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's presented to you.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have, Ms. Redding, is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Our next item, we will move right on into the, Michael Leonard show. I believe our city engineer, Mr. Leonard, has just about the rest of the evening.
I believe that's correct.
So, first item for, Mr. Leonard is, some consideration, engineering department consideration for Zoo City Sportsplex.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have in your packets a proposal from S&ME for the final testing of Phase 2 portion of the Zoo City Sportsplex. The cost for this testing will be $57,485, and staff recommends approval of this fee proposal by reference.
So moved.
I have a motion by, Councilman Moffett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Burks is our second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Carter. I'm sorry, I forgot to call on you a while ago. I need to remember to call on you because you have to speak up and vote. All right, we
We
have.
need one of those little
affirmative-
cutouts like they have in the stands. Just-
Pardon?
We need a little cutout like they have in the stadium, just
Oh,
sit
yeah,
there behind the
yeah.
phone.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Motion carries, and, now we have, go ahead.
So in light of your action, the finance director has prepared a budget amendment for the compaction testing of the project, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
Okay, have a recommendation to adopt by reference. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Moffett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Snuggs. Consideration, I'm sorry. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? Thank you. It's unanimous, it is approved. Item B is, some consideration for the David and Pauline Gerald Center City Garden Project.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. RFQs were advertised for the David and Pauline Gerald Center City Garden Project in December, with a due date for January 4th. RFQs, request for qualifications. 3 landscape architect firms submitted their qualifications for the project and were graded by staff based on their qualifications. While all firms were highly qualified, Prospect Landscape Architecture, LLC, was chosen because its proposal had completed similar projects in the past. Staff requests a proposal from Prospect for the design of the project, which along with their qualifications was included in your packets. Their fee for the proposed work will be $107,000. That's $107,000, and staff recommends approval.
You all had a copy of her proposal, and, while she has lots of great experiences, it appeared to me that this might be her first big project as a business owner.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Fairly new, but she is very qualified in projects that she's had the lead on with another
That's
agency.
correct.
So, I'm excited to have this, and, I will entertain a motion to, award this architect design services contract.
Mayor, I move we approve the design services contract.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Burks? No, Mr. Swears, I'm sorry. Second is Mr. Swears. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, Ms. Carter? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. I believe that was unanimous also.
So in light of your decision, the finance director has prepared a budget amendment for the design of the project, and staff recommends adoption by reference. That too is in your.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt this budget ordinance amendment.
Move to adopt by reference.
by reference, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Burks. I'm struggling a little bit.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Burks. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Carter? That's an affirmative. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And then, next, Mr. Leonard, you have some placemaking and branding, project items, on I-73-74.
Yes, sir. Also, at the same time, RFQs were advertised for the I-73-74 corridor placemaking and branding project, and the due date was the same at January 4th. 3 landscape architectural firms submitted qualifications for this project as well, and they were graded as well based off of their qualifications. While all firms were highly qualified again, J. Davis was chosen because it had completed similar projects in the past. Staff requested a proposal from J. Davis for the design, which is also included in your packets. Their fee for the proposed work will be between $170,000 and $185,000, and staff recommends approval of this proposal.
Well, if I can follow on here, Mayor, to what I read into the record earlier from Mr. Shipley. This is some of our response. If you've been out there, you notice how overgrown the medians are. We can't manage them, they're beyond our ability. The engineering team, and Michael we have begun to get the encroachment agreements where the spring breaks. We can go out there and remove the big overgrown stuff and get the landscape park reviewed, so they don't have to work just off GIS, because they always know the visual job, visual profession, right? So we're gonna clean a lot of that up. Now, the long term is we need cleanup activities. We don't know, I mean, I say this all the time, wherever that vehicle's growing that throws that McDonald's bag in front of my, or sheep's bag in front of my house, wherever it stops, there's a garbage can. Even if they're in the backseat of the police car, where they're going to stop, got a garbage can. So I guess it's a function of COVID. It is dirtier than I've ever noticed it. Or what, but, so we'll get out there and clean some up too. We would like the state to reignite, restart the community service program, but it's been, not funded now since the last 2009 to 10 budget crisis.
Well,
And this is an important function. When you hear about Kevin's, unemployment rate, you remember a year ago, our unemployment rate was, 2.98%. So that means they're just people moving from job to job. A lot of these people are actually unemployed and underemployed, and they're in the hospitality and travel industry. And, this is one of the reasons we gotta take advantage of that.
And they're buying food and gas for that extra $400 a week.
Yeah, and, with the coming online now, the southern loop's open, and move through the vaccination period, we can get, Australia and Asia opened up, and the zoo will be in the United States. So this is all coming, it's all part of our long-term plan.
Okay, thanks, John. I will, entertain a motion to award the design services contract for the placemaking and branding project, based on the recommendation by the, staff.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to award the contract. They had several attractive designs there. They had me at one day, Thomas, so I'll make a motion.
Motion by, Mr. Moffett to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Redding. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Motion carries. You have another item there. Go
yes, sir. This is for direction from council. This is for the, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped
We
ahead.
need the
Finance
budget-
Director.
budget
yes,
amendment.
Yes, sir. Finance Director has prepared a budget amendment for the design of this project, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
I have a recommendation to adopt by reference. May I have a motion to that effect?
Mayor, I just had a quick question. If we
Yes,
may.
sir.
Yes, sir.
That was for $150,000.
170
It
to
was 170 to
185.
185, I would just say the
The
higher,
ordinance was for
185.
150.
Huh?
The budget amendment says 150.
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering what the difference was between the contract and the ordinance, so.
I didn't see the budget amendment, so.
Oh,
Proposal is for, there's the proposed fee.
Okay, Mayor, we'll just put this on the consent agenda next time.
Right here, last page, 170 to 185.
Was there 2 pages on there? No, on the budget, there's no 2 budget,
No.
okay. We'll just put this on the consent agenda, Mayor. I think we've picked up this from the other project fund, so,
All right.
Well, they can get started on 100 and a half, I'm sure.
yeah,
do
yeah,
we need-
that's a long way toward,
Yeah, do we need to approve this tonight and then approve the additional?
yes, if you'll
25 or
approve
30?
if you'll just approve the contract, which you did, we'll follow along.
Okay.
We can't sign the contract and issue a purchase order till you approve the budget amendment anyway.
Okay.
Because of the pre-audit rules. We'll communicate that to the architect, and we can go ahead and get them aerial photos and all the stuff they need anyway.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 9D. You're going to review of public right-of-way needs for Sunset Avenue from Davis Street to Church Street.
Yes, sir. Sorry for skipping ahead a moment ago. This is just for guidance or direction of staff to continue or not. The survey of the block for Sunset Avenue between Church Street and Davis Street has been completed. The current right-of-way for this portion of the Sunset is 70 foot. That is 70 foot along that whole length. In order to maintain a 5-foot minimum for the sidewalks on both the north and the south sides, a 10-foot portion of the right-of-way can be closed, bringing it down to 60 foot. Sunset is, however, not exactly in the middle of the right-of-way, so the closure would be to be at 5 foot from the back of curb in order to hold the sidewalk would be approximately 3.5 feet of closure on the south side. And on the north side, that'd be, to accomplish the same thing of 5 foot behind the curb for the sidewalk would be 6.5 feet on the north side. At this time, staff, like I said, staff just needs direction whether to proceed.
Well, this arises out of, Mr. Collins is here, this arises out of the development and the ongoing work of the new Hamilton's Restaurant, which is moving locations and they want to encroach. So, again, the engineering department, we thank the consulting surveyor. We can get this done and not have to, we can shrink the street enough, we can accommodate future development. Rebecca McGee was here, she must have got a call or something. We've run it through the Downtown Association, they think it's a good project too. We want to encourage, obviously we want to encourage downtown activity, so, if the council's okay with that, well, but this is step one in the beginning of the process. There's official plats and advertising, but this will get us moving.
We'll make it clear, we're not shrinking the street, we're just narrowing the right-of-way.
That's correct.
And Mr. Trollinger, does that work for your client?
It's within 2 inches, we can make that work.
Within 2 inches?
Within 2 inches.
Okay.
So the 56.67 right-of-way, is that the new proposed right-of-way, or it says proposed? That,
Yes,
the hash line is
it's, and that's approximate.
Yeah.
He's got to get the survey and see exactly where the back of curb is and everything, but.
the points that are on here on the, proposed property, is that, what are they relative to?
Which points you talking about?
That is actually what the deed calls for, but,
So it's disputed to start with?
That's correct. But, I mean, it'd be what we have claimed in the past. So
So this would kinda clean that up too?
that's correct, to a point, yeah.
Did we owe them 200 years rent on the sidewalk?
It's up to you guys.
Be like that old Bond on the Mayberry show. Found it was Confederate money. Jeff Davis on it.
Okay, Mayor, if the council's okay with that, you'll just get consensus, we'll start the formal process.
And if
Okay.
I might add, just so you'll be aware, city staff or through the surveyor will need to contact property owners on both sides of Sunset Avenue, with the reason being they'll be approached about signing a plat. And the reason is to account for the statute generally reads that whenever there is an order of closure entered, that the property lines are presumed to extend to the center line of the street, and they take title by operation of law with that order. That's the presumption. But the statute also enables you to have a different division of property, so long as you get the signatures of the property owners who are to receive that to sign the plat that's used for closing the street. So in this case, since you're not having the classic closure of an entire right-of-way where there's one center line just to extend the property lines to, we'll need to divide it up on each side of Sunset Avenue, depending on what's necessary to end up with the sidewalk you intend to end up with. And so each property owner will be asked to sign the plat showing this is the property you're going to end up with. And that's always crucial, because when you get to your hearing, the process is that there will be a formal resolution. Once we have that plat, you'll adopt it. That sets the hearing. At the hearing, one of the standards you have to look at is, does any property owner claim this is adverse to their interest, to their property rights? Well, you go a long way in resolving that by getting everybody to agree up front on the plat. This is what you end up with at the end of the day. So I hope that is helpful. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The highway department routinely does that, or refers to it as an asymmetrical layout.
Correct.
And it's a common procedure, so hopefully there shouldn't be any.
Exactly.
Okay, no formal action, just consensus.
As long as there's the consensus of the council to move forward, we'll bring a resolution for your.
Ms. Carter, you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay,
Mayor, when we did show this to the redevelopment commission, we did talk about this being in January. They did not meet this month, probably told you that they did in January. And the planning board reviewed this past Monday night, and they were okay with it.
okay. And it appears the hole's already been cut in the wall, so we're good.
That's like confidence, self-confidence. I like self-confidence.
So, yeah, we're excited about this, and know you'll do a fine job, Mr. Trollinger. Okay, next is regional airport matters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have in your packets work authorization number 5 between the City of Asheboro and W.K. Dixon for the acquisition of Hangar Inn. This item does qualify for non-primary entitlement funding from the Division of Aviation and has been submitted and approved for this use. Staff recommends recommends approval of work authorization 5 by reference.
Okay,
Now, what we're approving,
go right ahead.
I want to be sure I understand, what we're approving here is the work authorization for W.K. Dixon to provide us with the information, the appraisal,
That's correct.
and
And
value.
begin the acquisition process.
Or end it.
Yes, if
Or
it's,
negotiate it in some different manner.
if
depending on-
it is not, yeah, agreeable, if the
So
price
this
is not.
We're funding the study. We're taking no action towards the hangar itself.
I believe so, yes, sir.
That's correct.
Correct. Very good.
All right. We have a recommendation by staff to adopt this work authorization number 5 by reference. May I have a motion to that effect?
Based on clarification, I move that we accept.
I have a motion by Mr. Moffett. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Ms. Carter. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In their regular meeting on January 19th, 2021, the Airport Authority requested staff to investigate the construction of a new 60 by 60 or 80 by 80 hangar instead of proceeding with the purchase of hangar N, T hangars. However, staff had been directed by council on January 7th, 2021 to proceed with the purchase investigation. The deadline to submit request for the 2020-2021 fiscal year was in fact January the 18th, so one day prior to this meeting, and staff had already submitted the request to the Division of Aviation for approval of the acquisition of the property. The expiring 2017 NPE funds of $84,640 would have been forfeited if we would have changed. They would not allow us to change for because the deadline had already passed. So if we had not continued with where we were, those would have been forfeited. The acquisition has been approved by the Division of Aviation, and they wouldn't allow any other change to the scope of work. In your packet, you'll find a cost-benefit analysis for the purchase of the existing T hangars, which is hangar N, and a new construction of 80 by 80 hangar. This also shows the current NPE funding available for Asheboro Regional Airport through the Division of Aviation, and a staff recommendation on how to proceed with the use of these funds for the coming years. As shown in the analysis, matching funds required for the city to purchase for the purchase of hangar N are $40,000 and will be recouped in approximately 1 year from the purchase due to proceeds from the rental. While the matching funds require new construction will be approximately required for the new construction approximately $65,000, which will take approximately 3 years to recoup. Rental proceeds from the hangar N could also be used towards the construction cost of the additional corporate hangars in the future. So this is just information.
All right.
That's just information.
To show you why we chose that route. And
Okay.
And we mentioned last month, I mentioned last month, at this time, the authority, being the airport, Asheboro Regional Airport Authority, we're going to have to empower them for more decision-making because the aviation economy is moving so quick. So I'm going to the April Airport Authority meeting with the plan to push more decision-making to them. Then I'll report it back to the council in the May, and where we may just pre-fund some of this, and then we'll get it back to the pass it on. So they would not be standalone philosophy. I would say the Alcohol Beverage Commission stands on its own, right? We do nothing but accept the minutes, accept and appoint the board. We'll have some financial interaction. There's not enough revenue at the airport to match all these grants and do all this and then pay the folks to work there. But we can make it quicker so the airport people who are subject matter experts to the authority can catch the economy.
Question for you, in this, we want to do what we'll come up with is best, you know, and that could be a choice of two grays, perhaps, in this. If I'm reading your numbers correctly, in your note at the bottom, after this purchase, there'll be approximately $360,000 in MPE funds, and the way I'm kind of getting to that math is, the total we have right now is 534.
that includes the this year's match as well.
So it's
Yes.
534 minus 360 plus 166.
That's correct. Yeah.
Something in there gets you to the 360, something in that,
Yeah.
in that neighborhood. So that money's available either way. If we don't spend the 84 quickly, it's gonna vaporize.
That's correct.
So that's a real consideration, but we want to get something for for our money. One thing that's, that I kind of throw out here just as a consideration in this is sort of maybe an outlier consideration. You've included the projected property tax revenue for the aircraft in each model. And now wouldn't it be, am I missing something? We get that revenue.
You're
no matter
correct.
who
You're
it's
getting
from.
that, you're getting that revenue anyway, yes,
So
that's
so
correct.
it don't necessarily, since the hangar's already there and existing,
Yeah,
we would get that revenue either way.
that's correct.
Whether we own it or somebody else owns it. And then, how many years is it before we get the thing for free?
I believe it's 18 years.
It's 18 years we get it for free. I asked John earlier this evening, and it was just we need to see was his response. So I just want to say it, because I'm sure there's no answer this evening for sure. If there's a possibility to spend the $84,000 to buy a portion of, say, 3 of those hangars, or buy, say, 5 years off of it.
I'll have to follow up with,
You know, in other words, if we
yeah,
get,
just shorten their lease.
yeah, in other words, we get the building in 13 years instead of 18, or we buy, deed off 3 or 4 of the slots or something other, so that money doesn't vaporize, we get something for it that comes back in, being it's there. It's my understanding that I personally am focused on the new hangar, you know, one way, just because I believe it brings in new business. Because it will bring in an aircraft we currently don't have a way to house.
That's correct.
So in that column, I see that as new revenue. And over here in this column, I see it as revenue we could have either way. Whether that properly or improperly skews the numbers.
And you're right on that. We were banging these numbers out at the same time we were trying to get the exact handle on the revenue stream created by the airport. If we're gonna, one of the things I'm looking at is,
This thing morphed on us in a 36-hour period.
and
I mean, that's really what happened here. I'm very impressed you got this together simultaneously.
And we're trying to hammer down the exact revenue stream that comes from the city, from the airport into our general fund, so we can roll that back to the airport fund. So essentially, we're incentivizing them to make more.
Right. That'd be
The more they
correct.
bring in, the more we'll push back.
I think
That's why we started counting up all the airplanes.
And I will say that in speaking with some other folks, this 650,000 for the 80 by 80,
that's a big number.
that is a big number, but that's what we got from the engineer, and that is
I think
something that we
see
could
why.
probably design down a little bit, because that's with HVAC and all this other stuff. It's possible we could do, that was just a number I got the day of, because I was trying to put this together quickly. But it's something that we could probably value engineer and get down quite a bit.
The door's the big one, and I would think that at that level, HVAC is probably necessary, but you can certainly upfit that at the time of tenant. There's a big difference between getting HVAC installed on demand as producing a hangar on demand.
That's correct.
Really, so, that's, the counting the airplane revenue and the recapture on the P hangar seems a gray area for me, but I think we're on the right path. You've got all the correct information in front of us, you've got the study coming. We definitely don't wanna see that 84,000 vaporized.
Yes, sir.
So there might be some options to do all 3 in our chicken salad, bowl here.
And just as a clarification, not because anything's said specifically in that discussion, but during the course of this transaction being described, I just want to make it clear, what has to be purchased is the leasehold interest.
That's correct.
The city already owns
own
that
the
in
property.
fee, the city owns that property.
We're gonna have one way or another.
It's already under our lease as the city, because we even ran into an issue when they had to build that the city would not subordinate to allow the financing to go on. They had to find other collateral than out there, because the city has been determined to keep clear control of that property. So it's leasehold. The one thing that's being gained is the city has more direct control
You're
at that point by taking that lease back.
You're purchasing control and a potential cash flow,
Correct,
a piece of paper.
correct.
Okay, item 3, you have presented us with some information about short-term hangar lease agreements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last council meeting on January 7th, council approved new rental rates for hangars at the Asheboro Regional Airport. You have in your packets a proposed template resolution for short-term hangar lease that was prepared by the city attorney, and staff recommends approval of this resolution by reference.
Questions?
You see in there too that the city attorney and Mr. Leonard have actually a listing of aircraft in there, so we got it that far. There's a schematic of what actually is on the ground. Remember, you had already approved the short-term hangar limit that I can, under my authority, I can do for a year. Remember, long-term is a function of the council. When we push the decision-making down to authority, of the decision of authority. Now, the general statutes still apply to the authority. This is just, we take 90 days of us being behind them. If they have a board meeting that takes us all the way to here to get to it, they can do it at their meeting.
Questions?
And if I may, I will say that this will come up later for discussion. The template has a durational limit of no more than a year. The reason that limit's there, just like the city manager correctly pointed out, the general statutes do not allow the council to delegate leasing authority to the manager for any time in excess for a year. When the council itself has to engage in the lease, it has to be advertised, and we have all the different restrictions on that, which was not a problem when you had the long-term leases like what we're talking about for Hangar Inn. When you had the long-term leases, the council could advertise it, go through the procedure, and then sign a long-term lease and make that happen. Under the rates, as these long-term leases end, and in effect, the people who built the hangars are amortized, and they've gotten the benefit of the discounted lease over that period of years, the city has now gotten out from their leasehold interest. This is moving to that month-to-month basis, at which you start charging an appropriate market rate now that we've moved past the initial time period. The way to try to make that work going forward, it's not practical month to month to try to advertise. You got to advertise for a minimum of 30 days before the council can act. The suggestion for the way to handle this, and this template lasts for a year, because that should be, as slow as government moves, we still should be able to get this worked out within that 1 year time period, is to basically integrate with the airport authority's blessings, the leasing, these month-to-month leases, with the FBO's responsibility. The city council can approve the FBO agreement, which also serves as, in effect, a lease agreement for the long term with the FBO. The FBO, as part of that contractual arrangement, is then given the authority to manage these month-to-month leases for these specific hangars. They then can enter, the FBO can enter into those agreements as they need to along the way, and the city council has complied with the statutory requirements by having the one long-term lease with the FBO with that delegated authority. And already the FBO has the ability, has some T hangars already, the Apron and other places, so it's not like it's an unusual situation. So that's the long-term goal, and if you see that durational limit in there of a year, this just bides us over until that can be implemented.
So the FBO, though, is not subletting, it's acting as an agent.
So, yeah,
In simple.
they are, yes, the city has leased to the FBO these hangars. The FBO then is authorized to sublease.
So it is a sublet.
It is a sublease. They can sublease, and what will have to be worked out in the FBO agreement between the city and the FBO is how do you work the compensation, where if they're doing the work, they're monitoring the hangars, they're doing, but what's the compensation to the city for allowing them to,
Right.
in essence, sublease those properties?
The main thing, it makes it flow and somebody can rent a hangar that day.
That, exactly. They literally could go month to month, and the FBO can sign off on it because they've already been delegated that ability for a set sum of compensation to
Everybody
the city.
understand that? Okay.
And I apologize if I made that more complicated than it needed
All
to
right,
be.
you're asking for action,
Yes.
by reference.
By reference, yes, sir.
Adopt this, short-term hanging lease agreement template by reference on the recommendation of staff.
I make a motion, we
Okay.
adopt the reference.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Moffett, to adopt by reference. May I have a second? Second. Second, Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Good job.
Thank you.
And,
All that makes sense if you've owned an airplane or owned a boat that you tried to sign a short-term lease in a marina. Somebody leased it to somebody, leased it to somebody, leased it to you.
You've been to Jordan Lake.
all right, so, Mr. Ogburn will update the council on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Mayor. We continue to see COVID here in Randolph County as well as in our own workforce. Currently, this is as of yesterday, Randolph has 11,700 active cases, and unfortunately, we've had 186 folks die from COVID. I was told today, one of our old retired employees has it, was taken to hospice, so it's kind of sad. We're still under code red. I think the state has come down some, as Secretary Cohen has said in her metrics, but there still is critical community spread. Now, I still see a lot of mask wearing. There's still a lot of mask wearing. There's some isolated not mask wearing, and there's some, the general rule, mask wearing is out there. If there's somebody who's concerned that a business is not enforcing the mask rules, or call the police department. We are handling that as a complaint, just like any other complaint. Somebody broke in their garage or anything else. Violation of the governor's order has been vetted now as a criminal offense. Okay, and we do answer, we do respond, and we do check on top of responding. This is where we are. You see your best shot. The vaccination process is going on. There'll be another mass vaccination event. About 2,000 people will be given their second dose at the North Carolina Zoo on Saturday. The city is supporting that event. Our restroom trailer's back down there in our water buffalo. That's from the Randolph Health System. They're using some of their allotment. You can still get them in the through the public health too. Call that 800 number. I know it's booked and slow, but we're moving through the process. There's a lot of discussion in the national news about using the national Fortune 500, the CVS's and the Walmarts and the Walgreens when the vaccine gets rolling out a lot, and that would be a great. We've had a lot of COVID in our workforce. We continue to see it. It kind of runs in buckets. We are really working hard on the 3 W's here in our city organization. I will say this, though. Fixing water breaks and making sewer taps is pretty hard to mask. I mean, it's hard work anyway. We're trying to keep everybody well and the best we can, but we have to meet our mission. And when our mission's public health and safety, now we don't do public health in the classic sense where we do immunizations and wellness, but we do provide clean water and a clean environment with wastewater. That's an important function. So we continue to work. We've had COVID in some of our public safety departments. Our fire department is still cut in 2 pieces down there. The 2 stations, running out of 1, east and west, are still we're still separated in the fire station 1 down there. The letter I mentioned earlier that the mayor sent out today not only mentioned the need that this pandemic and the length of the pandemic has highlighted a glaring weakness in our fire prevention program. We do need a third station, and we do need it south of Dixie Drive. So if you look at the city and you look at our growth, we jam up against Randleman on the north end. The west end's pretty much residential. It's zoned that way, east 64 and south. So that's where we need to be. So maybe there's talk at the federal level about starting or refunding the SAFER grants and the fire grants that we got a lot of our employees off of and a lot of equipment. Remember Chief Wright came here a lot in that era when that was, we hope to get some money and maybe can figure out somehow way how to get a third station down there about the same proximity as the Sportsplex. They could work back north and then south as we grow down Zoo Parkway and Old Cox Road, et cetera. Okay, so we've had it in public safety. We've had public service and facilities maintenance. We've done pretty well in recreation services, and we have limited recreation services. We are do senior aerobics and senior health in our senior center. The employee fitness is going on at noon. We have water aerobics. They all are masked. The water aerobics, when they get out of the water, they're masked. They get back in, they're not masked. And unfortunately, we've had some in administration. And our human resources, Steve Pay and Doug Kemp and I are really working on employee safety and trying to steer us through this. I'm reminded that plus or minus a year ago, Randolph County opened the Emergency Operations Center for this pandemic, and it's been open 24/7 since. So that is a long haul when we're used to mainly weather disasters or weather emergencies. So we continue to work that. We are working hard, Mayor, to try to get our employees vaccinated. You've seen a lot in the national media. You're going to see a lot more about requiring of vaccinations. You may have seen this week that maybe as many as 1/3 of nursing home employees chose not to get the vaccine. You don't have to be a detective to figure out if it's closed to visitors and the nursing home residents don't leave, the only way that COVID got in was through the employees. It's just, it's an airborne, and it travels via respiratory. So we'll see. I know I can speak out of turn. I know Mayor Smith's in the vaccination group. He's in round 1. I was able to get in late last week sometime. Katie's been able to get in. Charlie's been able to get in. Eddie was able to get in. We were in the same one. We're both 59. We're right there at the cusp and have asthma. And I finally said, you keep asking me to set up all the events. Don't I count as a mission critical employee? And I guess somebody decided that I did. Or they want something a lot next week. I'm not sure which. Yeah, they may be having a big get coming to ask here soon. So we continue to work at it, Mayor. Dr. Fauci has said, his goal for the nation is to go to the baseball game and sit in the seats. He's a big Washington Nationals fan. That would be Mr. Bell and I's goal, too. Big baseball fans. We're in a drought right now for our television watching. So that's where we are. We continue to work. If you know of anything else we can help, or if there's some shut-ins, we're trying to get the vaccine through the PT Regional Council down through the senior centers so we can get the shut-ins, like through the Meals on Wheels program, deliver a vaccine and the meals. We got to ramp up the vaccine dosage. And President Biden announced with his task force that getting schools back open is a priority, and that's, read the state news today or tomorrow in the Courier, whatever paper you read, that you see that's a big push in Raleigh right now.
Thanks, John. I will add until the availability of the vaccine gets ramped up to a sufficient number, we're just going to have to be patient. People are complaining. You probably all had telephone calls about people that can't get an appointment. Our local health department has been getting 300 one week, 500 the next week, 300 maybe the week after, or 400. they're not getting a consistent number, and they don't know until Thursday how many they're gonna get on the weekend for Monday and Tuesday. So 300 appointments go just like that.
They may
the
get
state-
400 vaccines in 1 week. Was it last week or the week before? They only got 140
Yeah,
for that.
they got 300 2 weeks ago, and the state, from the feds, the state is actually getting 120,000 doses for a population of 10.5 million people. So it's gonna take a while. And the health department is doing the best they can. When they get 300 doses, they open their phone lines and they make 300 appointments, and those appointments are gone in no time. The event at the zoo was it was a Randolph Health, as in Randolph Hospital, event coordinated by them with the assistance of the health department, and the logistics of that were pretty much done by Donovan Davis and the EMS people. The logistics of that 2,000
And the,
mass event was perfect.
and Ellie Parker and her team at Randolph Health.
Yeah, so, you know, that was a joint effort, but the vaccine doses came from Randolph Hospital, not the health department. So there's a lot going on, and as John said, one of the critical concerns now is people that are homebound, shut in, that cannot get out to get an appointment and are ultimately the highest risk group to start with, trying to figure out how to get those people vaccinated at home and in an efficient manner and to get everybody covered. So just tell people to be patient, it's just not enough to go around, and last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been somewhat of a panic with people calling and getting frustrated and getting angry, and and I'm sure you've all heard from somebody who had a story to tell. So, just keep washing your hands and staying at home, staying away from people, the 3 W's, and eventually this will all work out. It's a massive undertaking, when you think 120,000 doses a week for a population of 10.5 million.
Now, Mayor, before we move off this subject, I want to let the council know that we've had some pretty sick people in our workforce, but nobody's been hospitalized. Knock wood, we've had nobody. We've had some people that really came back and said, man, it was tough. And then we've had some people that was like a cold.
Well, and that's the frustrating thing.
You know, we just don't know.
You know, everybody's got an experience. Some, it's just another cold, just another bad cold or flu. Others, worst thing I've ever been through. And then we know people who passed away from it. The other night, 60 Minutes highlighted 5 families that will never be normal again. One in particular, lady lost her 41-year-old husband with 5 kids. And got a $4 million bill from the hospital. You know, and she's worried about how to feed the 5 kids. And just straight up, nothing will ever be normal for those people again.
Now, one of the things, Mayor, while we're on this, and I should have mentioned this when Kevin was still here, the unemployment rate is skewed. So generally, white-collar employees, you know, if you work in the government sector or the public sector, there's been no unemployment. If the lower sector of the economy, if you were to break that into wage levels, you would see the lowest sector of the economy has got like a 16.5% unemployment rate, a very high employment rate. And that includes people, as I mentioned, in the travel and tourism industry and in the hospitality, restaurant.
They're most affected by the lockdown,
Lost their coffee shop.
which is a whole nother story.
I heard today of an electric supply house up North Asheboro that closed. You know, just consolidating it was a satellite office, and they decided they didn't need it. So, it's affecting the whole world, you know. It'll be interesting if and when this is all over to see what our new normal turns out to be. But I don't think it'll ever be what we thought what it used to be. So, All right, upcoming events, John's got it on the screen.
Mayor, the only thing we have upcoming is tomorrow night is the 2020, normally it's the chamber annual meeting, but they're gonna do a live, it's gonna be on streaming, Facebook, and Elizabeth Lael is the host. So it's gonna be like
And y'all have a flyer on it.
a
Everybody
late
got
night,
flyer, take it home with
late
you.
night talk show type thing. So if you watch it, you may see some people in there you recognize.
And they'll be giving the same awards they always do, Citizen of the Year, Business of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year, that type of thing. And it's gonna be interesting. It'll be worth your time. We encourage you, to log on, follow it on YouTube, and pretend like you're rubbing elbows with the rest of you council members at dinner.
Every other TV show she's on, she kills somebody.
But you look good doing it.
She's a heck of an actress. And she's been very kind. As you remember, Owen George was here a couple of years ago and showed us the video for the Female Academy. And then she's done this. Now, you know, she's a very well-known, very famous actor. So to give freely of her time to support her hometown is, we're blessed to have her.
They say when she comes home, she's, what do you mean I have to drive myself around?
I've been wanting to get her to be if we ever have another Christmas parade, be Grand Marshal of the Christmas Parade.
I think when we get some of that stuff, the Copperheads and Post 45 and Christmas Parade and Christmas on Sunset, and we can have the MLK breakfast next year, hopefully, and all that. It's going to feel pretty good to have it all again.
Yep.
You know, that's the other thing. COVID, generally when we're being the city organization, when we're helping people in a snowstorm, post-hurricane, post-tornado, all the things we've had here, you know, it brings us together. It brings the citizens and the staff together. Right? It's you who called and the trees down, and we go get them, and you get out and you're so glad we're there, right? But this has actually pulled us apart because it's all
Oh, yeah.
separation.
Well, yeah, it's just tough not seeing your friends and neighbors.
Okay, that's
Anybody in the
tomorrow night.
room have a February birthday? I'm not up to date on my list. Anybody? Well, if you do, happy birthday. Wanted to recognize the police. Robert, I appreciate you being here tonight. And appreciate all the hard work. And you guys try to be safe. I know you're right out there on the front lines and cannot always be safe in what you guys do. Pass on our appreciation to the officers, your staff, and I know you guys who were hit pretty hard with the COVID a couple weeks ago. So hang in there, be safe, and we appreciate you very much. We'll start with Miss Katie down here. Got anything? No Super Bowl party this year.
Just a little small one.
I'm glad you're doing better.
Thank you. And I like to say, I thank everybody for calling, for the prayers and all. I didn't have to go to the hospital, but I sure felt bad. But,
Well, we're glad you're with us
And I wouldn't
tonight.
wish it on my worst neighbor.
Ms. Carter, you got anything to add?
No, I'm just thankful that, my family got their shot today.
Good for you.
Got her shot, and she got a second shot. And, it has been the first time we called in, we were on the phone for 7 hours.
Uh,
And, you know, it's been quite a battle for those folks that work at the health department.
Yep.
And I appreciate what they do. We were there and there were 2 lines going constantly, and they said they were doing about 400 a day. So there's about 2,000 this weekend. So somebody must be tired of getting a shot.
Yep.
But still thankful for those people.
They are well organized when they've got the vaccine to work with. And we appreciate you being with us tonight. I'm glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
Jane?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Walker?
I just, we're working on projects in other areas. I hope that the new tier rating can work to our advantage, you know, while it's available to us. Maybe it can.
We certainly got two critical projects, the Commerce Drive project and the Dublin, 42, intersection, lighting of that intersection.
Use it to every advantage we can.
Yeah, I asked Kevin the other day to reach out to NCDOT, and there ought to be some industrial development money for a tier 1 county, and let's get Commerce Place connected. We have completed our part, which is the acquisition of the right-of-way, and we will complete our part, anything above 400,000. DOT's got to do their part.
And they are putting some resurfacing projects out.
Yeah.
It's starting to show some progress, so there is some cash flow, and hopefully maybe even with a COVID package or something, they'll do some more. I want to share with you that, Zoo Director Pat Simmons, she's, progressing well with her, cancer surgery and her chemo. She plans to virtually attend the virtual meeting February 10th. We're hoping to hear from her in person. Her husband and son are in Asheboro living now full-time. They sold their farm, and they previously sold the farm in Ohio, sold the one in Alabama, and liquidating all the agricultural stuff to live here to support and be with her for the future. Her prognosis is good. So things are progressing there. I just want to share that with you more as an upbeat than a downer. But other than that, just pray for everyone with the COVID, to avoid the COVID, whatever can be positive COVID.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bell?
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, that's kind of a afterthought now with everything else we got going on, isn't it?
But you best not forget it.
For Valentine's.
I did see on Facebook that the man that has been at large from Davidson County, Spree, and which spilled over to Randolph County was apprehended today, so that's good news.
Good news. Thank you, Mr. Burks.
I was happy to see the sidewalk removal and replacement just north of Prestle Street there on Fayetteville Street. It's been needed for a long time, and everybody I know who runs, that's the one spot they complained to me about, and so now they'll have no complaints. They'll be on to something else, but it looks like a good job, so it's happy to see that.
Yep. Mr. Swears.
Just, I think with all the bad economic news, it's nice to see a bright spot with the bagel shop opening.
Oh, yeah.
Down on Fayetteville Street. And, you know, I think it's, you know, young couples put a lot of sweat equity into it, and it's gonna be an asset to downtown Asheboro, I think. They open tomorrow morning at 6:30. Don't go. There'll be too many people in line. Go see them on Saturday.
At least not until you get yours.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
Okay, staff, you got anything?
Just
Anybody?
wanted to quickly, I appreciate Tammy's flexibility in being here as far as our new approach to bring added resources. And I also want to thank Holly specifically. If you'll see at your spots, you'll see the packets for the supplements to the Code of Asheboro. So she's prepared those, and we appreciate her help with that.
Yeah, Holly was out, Mayor, and we really missed her. Glad to have her back. But not the same unless she's around here keeping us all our spirits up, so.
Tammy filled in ably.
Yeah.
Good job, Tammy. Thank you.
Very good.
Appreciate what you do downstairs, keeping Randy straight, too.
Yeah.
We know you try your best.
I'm really gonna miss him, actually.
I'm sure.
We are too.
We all are.
He's the best.
Holly got a field trip the other day. Holly had to come to my plant to see me. You were out in third world there. Okay, anybody else? Trevor, I'm glad you're doing better. Good to have you back. I know you really went through it too. So, we're pleased that you're doing better, and looks like you gained a little weight. Well, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Very good.
I got number, 4 and 4 and 8, maybe.